All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. My name is Melissa, and I am the new licensed nutritionist here at On Point Wellness. And I am incredibly excited to talk with you this afternoon about fueling your recovery and why nutrition is the missing link in your wellness plan. Um, just a little bit about me. I am, like I said, a licensed nutritionist. I'm also a professional ballet dancer. So I've been on both sides of the table, both the patient being taken care of by my physical therapist, recovering from injury, and I'm also the provider helping others to do the same. I know how incredibly easy it is to overlook nutrition in our recovery process because we're already working so hard on that recovery plan. It is a key part of your recovery plan, though, so we have to be sure that it is part of that. Like I said, I'm a licensed nutritionist. I have my Master's of Science degree in Human Nutrition from the University of Bridgeport. I'm a certified nutrition specialist, which means that I passed a board certified national exam. I completed over 1,000 hours of clinical hours with the Nutrition and Herbal Collective for my internship. I specialize in performance and recovery nutrition. I'm also a dance medicine specialist. And all of that is really a lot of fancy words and check boxes to really just say that I know activity, I know active individuals, and I know nutrition and just how important nutrition is for your activity that you're doing on a regular basis. So my job is to help you connect the dots between how it is that you move and how it is that you fuel so your body can do what it really wants to do, what you want to be doing regularly. To tell you a little bit about me and how I work, I do operate under an empower philosophy. So first, all foods fit. That is my approach. Is food first, and that all foods fit. My second philosophy is that we are aiming to find balance every day in any way. Your food and nutrition is consistency. You'll hear me use these words consistency and balance a lot, very frequently. And that's really what we're striving for on a regular basis because that's what really empowers you to move forward, especially in your recovery. And then finally, just for the sake of today's session and any quick combos that I have with anybody, you know your body best. So any meal or snack recommendations that I might make in today's talk are really just suggestions and usually come from my personal food preferences because we're only going to be chatting here for just a couple of moments this afternoon. So definitely get the question a lot about why is it that nutrition matters because you've got your movement plan from your physical therapist. Now we need to fuel that, right, with a strategy that is built for you. Nutrition really does support the healing, your strength building, and your overall long-term performance success beyond your physical therapy protocol. So usually we tend to know or have an understanding about, the what it is that we're supposed to be eating, but the real shift happens when you understand the why and the how it is that food helps your body rebuild, reduce inflammation, and keep your progress going, especially in between physical therapy sessions. So this is not about restriction. It's not about body weight. It's not about eating perfectly because that does not exist. This is about creating a nutrition plan that supports your recovery, builds strength, and works with your body, not against it. And all the while, we're aiming to reduce the risk of re-injury in the future, which is all of that. So I'm curious, go ahead and maybe raise your hand here on Zoom if you have ever said these following things. The first is, I know what to eat, I just don't do it. The second is, oh, I really should be eating more of that. Insert food here. Or I'm really trying to eat or fewer or eliminate X food, this food, right? Have you ever even wondered if food really matters while you're already doing physical therapy or your strength training or cross training and conditioning? Totally. Yeah. Yeah. So you can go ahead and remove your hands. So um, I cannot underscore just how much nutrition is not about perfection, right? It's matching your strategy to fueling that really matches that. Um, all things that that we tend to hear, right? So, moving into the next part of this conversation is why is it that nutrition matters for every single stage of the physical therapy recovery process, right? So, there is a framework when it comes to recovery nutrition. We know that recovery is an active process, right? When you come here into the clinic, you don't tend to just sit on your bottom and listen to your physical therapist talk to you. You are usually doing things like exercising or getting, a massage or something like that. There's something active happening. And that is why fueling is really important. So, your body is working hard, even if you're not moving. Healing is biologically demanding, yes, and nutrition provides the building blocks that your body needs to, like I've said, reduce inflammation, restore the tissue, and regain strength. So there are three phases to the recovery nutrition framework. The first is acute recovery, the second is strength and mobility, and the third is long-term performance. So I'm going to go through each one of those phases and just share with you how it is or why it is that nutrition is important for each of those phases. So in acute recovery, we're really thinking about our pain and inflammation. So during this phase, we want to be prioritizing hydration, anti-inflammatory nutrients. We're thinking like things omega-3s, colorful produce, and a steady and consistent energy intake. Eating in an anti-inflammatory pattern does not mean cutting carbs. That is always the first thing that people tell me, oh, I've reduced my carb intake. That is not helpful for your injury recovery. You might even think about like overhauling your diet and how it is that you eat, or trying to load up on supplements to help with reducing that inflammation. And none of these things are most beneficial for you, right? So, eating in this way and really supporting yourself during this phase one simply means giving your body a little extra TLC so that you can nourish it, right? There's no major changes required. These are our small supportive shifts that go a long way in helping to calm the body's inflammation and really begin the healing process with nutrients. Something that a lot of clients don't expect to hear from me is asking them how it is they're approaching meals and snacks, right? So frequently, especially as active people, we tend to eat in a really rushed manner or with our cell phones always at our side. We're pretty distracted. But how is it that you might be able to take a 3-second pause, or maybe it's 5 deep breaths, to calm the nervous system before you start eating? This simple practice really helps to support our not only our central nervous system, which helps our digestive process, but also does help the body better absorb the nutrients that we're about to feed it. And again, like I said, our body really knows what to do in healing itself. So we need to be able to provide the nutrients that it needs to do that work it already knows how to do. Moving into the second phase of our recovery nutrition framework. I spelled framework wrong. That's fine. Um, in the strength and mobility phase, we are focusing on protein timing, our overall total energy intake, and specific nutrients, which might look like calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, and others that are going to be specific to you and your injury recovery. One of the most common reasons people experience injury. Oh, hang on. Just had join. Hello.
Hi there.
Hi, Winnie. I was just getting started, but I'm gonna keep on going in the middle of the conversation just to stay on time with our 5 o'clock in-person start time. I hope that's okay with you.
And I'll go back to the recording.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely will be sure to share that here in the follow-up, but feel free to hang on and you can ask me any questions once I do wrap up, okay? Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Okay, let me jump back over. I think I'm still sharing my screen. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Oh dear. restore that. Let me do that. Here we go. Okay. And I'm assuming, Winnie, that you can see my screen. Let me actually spotlight myself. I cannot. That's okay. All right. So I was just going through how there are 3 phases to our recovery nutrition framework, and I totally realized that I spelled framework incorrectly. But the first phase is our acute recovery, where we're really focusing on helping to reduce our pain and inflammation. So from the food and nutrition side, we're ensuring that we're getting adequate hydration, focusing on anti-inflammatory nutrients, because our body is really needing some extra TLC to help kickstart that healing process. So, in alignment with whatever it might be doing during this phase of PT, we want to be sure that we're supporting our body with those the food and nutrients that it needs. And the last thing that's really, really vital for that phase 1 is that I love to ask people how it is that they're approaching meal and snack time, because usually we're like, especially as active people, we're rushing from here to here. We always have our phone right next to us and are kind of in a continuous distracted state. But how is it that you might be able to pause for a couple of seconds or take, 5 really deep breaths before starting to eat? That just helps to calm our central nervous system down and prepare our body for digestion, as well as to better absorb the nutrients that we're about to consume to really help that healing process, which I think is something that is super important for us to keep in mind. Um, the phase 2 of that recovery nutrition framework is starting to focus on strength and mobility. So, this is in PT when you're starting to get back into the movements and the strength building. With your physical therapist, we definitely focus on protein timing, overall total energy intake, and nutrients like calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, and other nutrients that are going to be specific for you and your injury recovery. One of the most common reasons that people experience injury, whether you're a dancer, an athlete, or just an active person, is low energy availability. This isn't just about calorie intake, right? But it really means that your body is not getting enough food or nutrients to meet the daily energy demands that you have. So whatever it is that you're asking your body to do, we're just not adequately fueling for that. And on top of that, healing itself requires a lot of energy. So, as your as your injury begins to improve and you're starting to prepare to return to full activity, it's really important to gradually support that process with adequate, sustained energy intake. With me, there are no 180-degree swings, just steady intentional support, right? That consistent balance of nutrients and consuming foods throughout the day. Protein is having its moment in the spotlight again for like the 5th time in 5 years. And yes, protein is really important when it comes to injury recovery. But what I'm seeing more and more from people is that we're eating so much protein that it ends up crowding out other nutrients, especially carbohydrates, which are absolutely essential for the injury healing and strengthening process, right? So instead of simply eating more, we tend to focus on, instead of focusing on eating more protein, we need to focus instead on protein timing, placing it strategically throughout the day to really support that tissue repair, strength building, and overnight recovery. So, yes, protein is really important, and I'm seeing it crowding out other nutrients that we need just as much for injury recovery. So in our work together, I like to help clients find their individual nutritional foundation. So that's me asking you guys questions about like, what kind of balance of macronutrients do you have? So that's where we talk about the big 3, which is our carbohydrates, our proteins, and our fats. What balance of those things help you feel strong and energized, rest and recovered the next day, right? Another question is, where can we bring in more variety? What about adding nutrient dense foods without sacrificing digestion? So causing upset stomach or anything before your performance is needed, or sacrificing performance, right? Because we want to be able to show up as best as we can every single day with the activity at hand. The last question I always ask everybody is, which foods are working best for your body, right? So that's before a gym session, before class, before a rehearsal, or a game, or just a busy day in general. Nutrition at this stage, as we're, closing in on the end of phase two is not about rigid plans. It's about fueling with intention and supporting your body's return to movement with the tools that you need to thrive. Yeah, so we're building this framework for yourself to go in the long term, which is the best thing to see from everybody. From there, we move into phase three, which is that long term performance and prevention phase. So, we're building sustainable fueling habits that support your full return to movement and reduce re injury risk. That's really, really key, and why getting that energy availability up is very, very vital. This is where the real magic happens. You have moved through the hardest parts of healing, and now you're stepping back into your routine, right? You're training, you're dancing, you're working out, or just living actively with more awareness and tools than you've ever had before. At this stage is where we're really focusing on consistency and flexibility, right? So life isn't static, and neither is your nutrition plan. Together, we've learned like what works for your body, what works with your schedule, and all of your preferences, right? So now you start taking the reins. The best part, so this is where your PT is maybe seeing you once a month, once every other month, right? You're really starting to take the reins into your own hands and driving yourself forward. The best part of this is that you're not doing it alone, right? I'm still here for support towards the end, the start, middle, and end of phase three, but you're starting to build trust in your own ability to fuel well. So, this is where your empowered self begins to shine as you navigate real life challenges with the strategies that we've developed for you and are doable, aligned, and sustainable with everything that you have going on. Do you have any questions thus far before I head into the little last bit of today's presentation
No, I
about the
don't.
Okay, amazing. Awesome. Well, then we'll kind of head into the next section of the talk. So, I definitely see some common pitfalls when it comes to nutrition, and either people's hesitation about it or uncertainty about like its importance in alignment with your physical therapy protocols. Just a reminder that nutrition plans do not need to be and should not be perfect. They need to be practical, right? Because if it does not work within your schedule and what you have going on a regular basis, it will be impossible to continue. Healing demands energy, and skipping meals, overthinking choices, or waiting until hunger hits is just going to slow down that process. So, some common pitfalls that I tend to hear from people, one is that, oh, well, I'm not working out, so I don't need to eat as much. This is a major misconception. Recovery, it requires almost more food than when you're fully working at capacity, right? Healing is an energy intensive process, just like your training is. And the equation is not simply calories in and calories out, especially when your body is doing behind the scenes work of that tissue repair, inflammation management, and rebuilding strength, right? All of these things, we're not physically actively doing work that we see or that we sweat, but the body is doing it behind the scenes. So if you think about it in this way, and I don't know if Jenna or if Maeve have talked to you all about this, but if you're lifting weights, when is it that your muscle growth actually happens? Any thoughts on that? I'll give you a hint. It's not during the workout, right? Our muscular strength really increases afterwards. During our rest and recovery is when we grow muscle, when we build that strength. So, under eating impacts both that strength building, it also impacts our sleep, our mood, our focus, and essentially leaves us consistently hungry or hangry, which is where we need to take a look at your carbohydrate intake and ensure that it's nice and balanced for you, because your brain and your body need them all of the time. Another pitfall that I see is skipping meals due to, low appetite, stress, or just the busyness of day-to-day life. So this one is incredibly real. It's important to realize that when stress levels are high, whether it's emotional stress, physical stress like exercising, or just the general chaoticness of life, your appetite often drops. I'm a huge culprit of this. It happens a lot. It's very, very natural. a natural nervous system response, but that does not mean that you don't need to fuel. Yeah, so um I always have some bag stable snacks or maybe some car stable snacks, something available when it's been a little while since you've eaten, and being proactive about that hunger is going to further help reduce risk of injury, right? Super, super important. The last common pitfall that I see from people is that they just feel super overwhelmed to start. So when it comes to food and nutrition, we just feel like we have to change absolutely everything at once, right? We have to completely flip the time we eat breakfast, what it is that we're eating for our meals. And that is just not what needs to happen. The work that we do together is about layering small, meaningful changes over time. Right. So if we take a look at it, like 6 months from now, will things look different for you? Yes. But the path that we took to get there is doable, personalized, and completely aligned with what you have going on in your real life. So it's not just a complete overhaul that doesn't take any of that into consideration. Always a great reminder that healing is work. It is not rest. Fueling your body helps it do the work that it needs to do, and nutrition is not optional, it is essential for that work. That is pretty much everything that I had to chat about with you guys this afternoon. You can definitely add nutrition into your plan today. Just let us know. I am here because Jenna saw the gap with some clients, who are doing everything right from the physical therapy side of things, yet still plateauing. And nutrition is most likely the key to get over that plateau and onto the other side. So I'm here to help you all do that. Reach out. We can get you on the schedule.